So the first person I'd like to introduce is Ray Theilacker. Ray has been involved in education for well over 40 years. His office is right across the hall from mine at the University of Delaware, and we shared many war stories about teaching in public schools. We both have a history of public school teaching. It also meant that I had to listen to many hours of Jefferson Airplane records. Luckily, I like Jefferson Airplane, and I like talking about teaching. One day he said, "Do you have a half an hour to hear about the Delaware Teachers Institute?" As I mentioned, I was right across the hall, so I was trapped, and I figured a half an hour would be okay. Resigned to get it over with, I listened to it, and I fell in love with the whole concept, as told by the founder of the Delaware Teachers Institute. Ray just resigned this past year, and I have the impossible task of following my friend and colleague and mentor. Please welcome Ray Theilacker.
Thank you, Jack. And now that I know my flu shot is going to be ineffective, I think I'll hustle through this. In 2005, a colleague and I were, a teaching colleague and I were invited to the first session of the Yale National Initiative. 2 years later, I was pursued and encouraged to take on the role of what's called a planning director. Well, the planning director is in an institute that's just beginning, ultimately becomes the director, ideally, of an institute. So for the next several years, I was not only the planning director, but I was working full-time as a classroom teacher. And I won't belabor how difficult that situation was. However, we had lots of help in establishing an institute. Had the support several years later of 5 superintendents, and this was unusual for institute to deal with more than one school district. Most were large urban districts. And I think there was a lot of angst about whether 5 districts could be balanced and we could pull off the model with that many partners. We did. We were led by Steve Godowski, who was the superintendent of the district I worked in. And with the help of a few professors that we knew at the University of Delaware, and largely in the College of Education, we ultimately were invited to become an institute, a unit of the university, by the president and the provost, following a site visit where teachers and leaders from New Haven and from, I guess, Pittsburgh at that time visited the university. The whole time, our teacher capacity was being built in that teachers were coming to New Haven in the summer for the intensive session. So by the time we became an institute, we had better than 20 teachers involved as fellows. And I'm making a point of that because that's how institutes begin, is grassroots. The UD president and provost, as I said, welcomed us and established an institute, a place for an institute. I retired as a public school teacher and interviewed for and took the role of director in Delaware in 2010. The director position, I should emphasize, in my view, is one of coordinator, ombudsman, and consensus builder. But unlike most executive positions, the director takes his walking orders from the teacher leadership and the faculty advisors. Thank you.